If you are looking to figure out how to close more deals in less time, you're going to want to buckle in. Today, we have a great episode of the Prime People podcast with my good friend, David Hill. He is an expert coach, a triathlete. He is a Cardone coach and somebody that just shows up every day and is very effective with his sales skills. I have spent literally hundreds of hours with this man up to this point, refining my craft. And when I tell you, if you put two of us in a room, we're going to be pulling back the curtain. We are going to do that in a very big way. So if you're looking to level up your business, if you're looking to fill your pipeline, this is going to be the episode for you. If it's your first time to the Prime People podcast, welcome. I am your host, Justin Konikow, the owner of Prime Real Estate with my gorgeous wife, Shannon. She is smarter than she is even pretty, and Prime Media Productions. We focus on all things real estate and media. We have had titans of industry like Ryan Serhant, Scott McGillivray, just to name a few, share on the Prime People podcast. So make sure you hit that subscription, that notification button, so you can go to those back episodes, but not miss any of the future guests that we're going to have. But this is going to be an exciting one. I want to get right into it. So let's do just that. And let's get into another episode of the Prime People podcast. Welcome to the Prime People podcast, where we cover all things that got us to where we are today, our team building strategies, the marketing and sales tips that we've learned through thousands of transactions, productivity tips, ways to really just hold yourself accountable to accomplishing what you want to accomplish, and all things content creation, personal development, and not to mention we have some of the best guests on the planet. We definitely do, and today's guest is none other than Mr. David Hill. How are you doing today, brother?
Hey, doing awesome, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, you are a black belt at sales. That is for sure. And I only bring practitioners onto this show. So I'm really excited for this episode, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, me as well, man. It's an honor to be here, and I definitely appreciate you and what you're up to. And it's like I said, an honor to be part of your show. Yeah,
no. So let's give people a little bit of context, high level. Who are you? What do you do? And where do you do it?
Yeah, man. 37 years in the sales trenches. Spent my last 19 years going on 20 in the real estate space. Before that I was in publishing. We published a magazine. I literally called telephone books to, talk to, tradesmen, painters, landscape companies, just little cold calling and selling them advertising. Before that I worked for a company. We did credit card applications over the phone. So I've spent literally like 37 years just honing my phone skills. And when I went into real estate 19 years ago, we started on day one calling for sale by owners. I worked my way up to a team that was closing about 120 houses a year, got me into Gary Keller's private mastermind in 2011, 2013 to 15. I was a Keller Williams University trainer. I used to go around the country and teach their curriculum only to listing side of the business. Just have a lot of experience in real estate. I'm no longer at Keller now, but I hold my license at EXP. Right now I primarily, we still sell some homes, not as many as we used to. We keep sharp, but for the most part, I work with real estate agents on helping them to sell more homes, to handle objections, to connect with people they don't know, and ultimately just be more effective with sales and with connecting with people.
I love that about you. Actually, first time I ever met you, I was on an audio app called Clubhouse. It was in a room called Breakfast with Champions, and I was in the real estate rooms as well. But what I noticed about you, every single morning I was waking up 5:30. I was probably 6 o'clock, but I started pushing myself back. You were on a Peloton, and it was the same thing. I think you were training for a triathlon at the time. Yeah. You were putting in the work, but you'd unmic and you talk, and you were always kind of ideating. And it's interesting because as you kind of explain your bio, what I want the viewers to understand is the depth of work you have put into your sales training and the methodology. This episode is going to really help people understand how to close more deals in less time, because you've put in your 10,000 hours understanding the dynamics of serving somebody in a phone call to a very high level. I think a lot of people in our industry just pick it up and they fly by the seat of their pants and they say, I'm more crunchy granola. I don't like having a system. I don't like scripts. I don't like cold calling. And I understand that dynamic because the consumer doesn't want to be cold called. But I think what's interesting is we've shared these conversations in our role-playing rooms where we're trying to save the consumer time. Like, I don't want to serve a consumer that doesn't want to be served. So half of what you do is really, I think, the highest level of service of making sure you kind of get to the point. So let's dig into that first.
Well, let me just say, I agree with you 100%. The consumer doesn't want to be cold called, but what they really don't want is they don't want their time wasted.
That's what I was getting to, right? And I think you do a great job of cutting through the noise and the ineffectiveness of what some people are doing. So what do you think is one of the biggest mistakes agents make when they just pick up the phone and call somebody versus having a system on how they do it?
Yeah, I use a system called the ACE method, and it starts with the A, which is an acronym for avatar. And I think the biggest mistake is we don't put enough thought into who we're calling, why we're calling them, what challenges they have, what problems we're trying to solve, what fears they have, the objections there. And literally, this is what I work with people on. Like, this is how strategic I want people to be before they pick up you almost want to know what they're going to say to you before you even call them. Like, I think the biggest mistake is we don't invest enough time, Justin.
Yeah.
I think, and I know there's a lot of people out there that cold call and in their own mind, they don't even think they're the solution, but they're making calls because somebody else told them they had to do that to get business.
Or they feel like they're doing something, right? They're like, I'm busy. I made 50 calls today. But if you don't have any intent or you're not bringing anything valuable, you're kind of just wasting your time.
Yeah, you're wasting your time and you're wasting their time. And that's why I mentioned that earlier with the cold call is people want value. So if you're bringing something to somebody that's going to ultimately help them solve a problem, they don't care if you don't, what's a cold call? It's either you don't know the person or they're not expecting your call. Like, you could call your cousin. It would be a cold call because he wasn't expecting your call. Right.
Yeah.
So I think we over analyze what a cold call is, but when you're calling somebody and you're wasting time, you're not concise. You're not clear in what you're saying. Similar like I just was, right? You're jumbling your words. You're asking ridiculous questions. Like, sometimes people will call you and tell you what you need. And like, I get those calls all the time from like,
they don't listen, companies. Right? They'll call you and they're talking at you, just waiting for their time to turn.
Great.
Right?
You said it well. They're talking at you instead of talking to you.
Yeah. And I do think it's interesting. A couple of things that kind of pop up there. If people are listening to this and you hear role play, you hear scripts, you hear cold calling, there's this instant kind of wall that goes up versus really understanding the purpose of what we're talking about. So let's just role play. If we were talking about a multifamily building, right? So if I was the agent calling you, right, and I just sold a 23 unit building, you sent a lead through online because it was still online, it hasn't processed yet. So ring, I'll play the agent, you play the buyer. So ring.
Hello.
Hey, David, it's Justin Konikow calling you from Prime. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. How's it going, Justin?
Good. Really well. I got that inquiry on the 23 unit building we just sold. That one did sell, actually is going to be processed in the next 24 hours. I'm assuming you're looking for investment properties, maybe some off-market opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always looking for the right opportunities.
Okay. Yeah. That one sold about $230,000 a unit. Again, not available. So I'm crushed that I can't show you that one, but I have another one coming up in St. Thomas, actually 200 a unit. I think has better upside and less licensing restrictions. Is that something you'd want me to send you?
Yeah, by all means. Feel free.
Awesome. I'll end the role play there. That's just an example of what you're talking about, right? Of knowing I'm calling an investor, probably wants some off-market deals, probably wants to know some numbers and the dynamics of what it sold for. If it did sell for, how can people take that same methodology and call a for sale by owner or call somebody else and set themselves up for success? Like, what type of research do you do before you call a lead?
So great question. So I would, so let's use you said for sale by owner. So we use a for sale by owner. So first question, I'll ask you, what's the for sale by owner's biggest fear?
Commission, maybe, or paying too much in commission, or probably that.
That's the thing, right? They don't want to ultimately pay a commission, right? Or they think, oh gosh, those realtors make too much money.
For sure, yeah.
Buy fancy cars, and I don't want to give them my money, and I'm going to lose equity, right?
Yeah.
And what else? Anything else?
Yeah, I don't do a lot of FISBOs. I'm assuming, unethical agents probably,
Okay,
the
yep, there
hosing
you
them on the
go.
deal. I think that'd be a big part of it.
Love it. Okay, good. So now we've thought through, okay, these are the fears they have. So this is probably what's on their mind. So right away, before I even call, I'm getting on their side of the table.
Yeah.
This is one of the biggest mistakes. I know you asked me earlier, but another mistake that you'll see people make is it's an adversarial call.
Yeah.
Like realtors will call them and tell them what they're doing is wrong.
Sure.
I'm never telling anybody what they're doing is wrong. As a matter of fact, I know what they're doing is right based on their thinking.
Interesting.
Like in their mind, they feel like they're making the best decision for themselves. So how am I going to call them and say, oh no, what you're doing is way wrong? Yeah. No, I know because you feel like you have equity, because you feel like some realtors are shisty or whatever. And you want to make as much money as possible. That's why you're doing what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So now what's the biggest problem they have?
Just the inundation of, I think they think every agent's created equal, right? Like they just get called from 57 different agents, assume their service offering is the same, right?
Okay. Well, that might be one of their fears, but the problem is exposure in most cases.
Oh, you mean to actually sell the house? Yeah, for sure. They're just not getting the exposure.
They may not know that.
Yeah.
Right. But that's ultimately the challenge they're dealing with right now in this market. Like we listed one, we got back from Hawaii. I got back from Hawaii Monday, and Tuesday I met with somebody. Before I went to meet him, I researched there were 2 houses on the market in his town. 2. That's one of the first things I told. He didn't even know that. As you know, there's only 2 houses in the MLS right now. And there's hundreds of buyers looking in this area. That's a problem.
Yeah.
They don't even know it's a problem, because what ends up happening is now we show up and we put it on the MLS and all these buyers are showing up with buyer's agents now and other realtors that aren't even going to his house. Okay. So we know the fear they have is I'm going to give away my money. I'm going to lose money. And now we know the problem they have is exposure, and there's other, doing the paperwork, but they don't really care about that because they think I can get my attorney to do that. No big deal. And a time is an issue too. Some of them like, I don't really have a lot of time, but I'll make time because I'm going to save 15 grand or 20 grand. Right. Sure. So time is also an issue. So I know this going in before I even have a conversation with this person. All right. So now my greeting is probably going to sound a little bit different than most. It's going to be, I'll call you. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hi, sir. My name's David Hill, calling you from eXp Realty. The reason for my call is you have a house for sale by owner in my coverage area. And did I get you at a bad time?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm just in the middle of changing my oil. Do you have a buyer? I've just had a lot of agents calling.
Well, is there a better time to get back to you?
Yeah, I mean, just try me this afternoon. I'll be tied up for a couple hours.
Okay, perfect. So what would be a good time to call you back this afternoon?
Anytime, probably after 2, I should be available.
All right, great. And just to make sure I'm not wasting your time, is the house still available or have you already sold it?
It is. I'm getting a lot of agents calling me trying to list the house. So if you have a buyer, feel free to give me a shout.
Got it. Okay. Are you at all open-minded to hiring a realtor to sell the house?
Had a really bad experience in the past. I didn't get a lot of value from my last agent. And honestly, I feel like it's a seller's market. So I just decided to sell myself.
Okay. Well, sorry to hear about your past experience. I mean, do you want to take a couple minutes now so I could share what we do, or do you want me to call you back this afternoon? Because I know you said it wasn't a great time.
I got a couple minutes. Why don't you just kind of give me a 30,000 foot view rundown if you can do that quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like the reason you're selling the house yourself is because you had a bad experience, and is it ultimately to make the most amount of money from the sale, or are there other reasons?
Well, yeah, I guess the money at the end of the day is the biggest thing for me. Anybody can list a house and sell it these days. So why not just save that money?
Yeah. And did you know that right now in your town, there are literally 3 houses on the MLS? Were you aware of that?
Yeah, no, I didn't know that actually. I thought there was more than that, but.
Yeah. And so what's happening is a lot of realtors now that need inventory can't find anything for their clients. So if we were able to show you a way we could get what you want in your pocket, or maybe even more, but after our commissions, would you then be open to hiring us?
Yeah, like I said, it's how much money I'm going to make at the end of the day. But I mean, commissions, they seem super high considering you just put a sign up and the house sells itself.
Yeah, well, that is a misconception with our industry. So here's what. Are you familiar with 15 Lakeside Ave in Shrewsbury?
Yes.
Okay, great. Seller, just like you, he was going to accept an offer. We came in and he gave us 28 days to put it on the market because we felt like we could do better, and he believed that we could do better. So long story short, he was going to accept 425. We ended up first week on the market, 14 offers, getting 465. Okay, so that means after giving us our fee, he ended up walking away with an extra $27,000.
Well, I'll give you 27 days to give me $27,000. Sign the contract. Let's go.
Awesome. Let's go. So I've got some time this afternoon or tomorrow. And I didn't even have to go into the story.
For sure.
But the only reason I shared the story is because, and here's the other thing that was very interesting about our call. I don't always ask, did I get you at a bad time?
Yeah.
Okay. It kind of backfired a little bit, but I still went with it in that case.
Well, I threw the oil change at you for a reason, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I still went with it. And but did you notice what I did is I still respected the fact that you said it was a bad time.
Yeah.
And
then you heard the inflection.
I threw the ball back to you.
And you did, right? Like I responded with a positive inflection, which kind of led you to be like, well, you got a second now. And exactly. We jousted back and forth a little bit there, right?
So there's a few things I did that people have to understand is I tossed it back to you and said, you're in charge, Justin. Mm-hmm. Do you want to have this conversation now, or should I call you back this afternoon like you asked me to?
You respected my time. Another thing I'm going to point out, because we role play a lot here internally. We run a role play room 5 days a week with the team because to my clients, it's me doing what I say I'm going to do. They're hiring me because I'm better than other people because I put in the work to try. You brought up case studies. We talk about this in our role play rooms all the time about how important it is to give me a real life example of a difference maker that you were. And you gave me a real example of a property that I knew that sold for more because you used your methodology. And that's simple for a consumer to explain. You took down the adversarial wall, right? And you said, hey, let's stand on the same side of the wall and let's look at that property over there. I could potentially do that for you, right? Which is a very different approach.
Yeah, and I also wasn't wishy-washy. My intro is very concise. Yeah. And also I asked you for the business. I didn't say I'm coming over for a buyer. I said, are you open-minded to hiring me to list the house? Most realtors won't do that.
No.
It's going to sound a lot different in a conversation with me or one of the people I work with than it is your average realtor that calls.
Yeah, and that touches the honesty piece. We talked about how consumers, one reason they don't like cold calls or they don't like getting called by agents specifically is the dishonest aspect of, oh, I have a buyer, just like the amount of agents that sign a listing agreement, have no showings, and then a month before expiry are like, oh, guess what? I got all these leads, just hit that renewal button. I think if you lead with integrity and you also have the confidence to be able to call a consumer and provide value and that feeling of exclusivity, like you don't need my business, but we're going to be better together than we are apart. It's a very different interaction that you have with people than if you're just calling desperate for business. Do you find?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And so if I bring it back to the ACE method, which is the avatar, and then the second is the compelling offer, which the compelling offer we have is for sellers is we have a 28-day guarantee. And it doesn't guarantee we're going to sell the house. What it guarantees is if you're not 100% satisfied, you can terminate our agreement. Justin, I was using this 12 years ago.
Yeah.
With my team. It was a 30-day guarantee back then. And that in itself, I want you to think about the fear. I'm bringing you back to the fear. Okay. Besides the fact that I'm losing money, I'm going to be locked into the wrong agent long term.
Yeah.
I'm solving that fear with my compelling offer.
I'm stealing that because it's funny. I do something similar with my clients, but I haven't really formalized it into a contract, right? Like it's there, but they don't know if they sign the contract, is it really going to be there? That if, after about a month, if you're still happy, we'll continue working together. If not, that's okay too. It really does take away that fear. I love how you made that into something concrete. I like the 28 days versus the 30. That's actually a good time.
Yeah. 28, exactly. 28-day program, right?
Yeah.
And then we have other offers depending on who we're talking to. If we're talking to an expired, we have lease to own. We have a cash buyer program, right? We have lease purchase. I mean, so we always call. I don't just call as a one-trick pony. We want to have multiple offers when we're calling people. That's part of what we do. So we really want to strategically think through every single call. And then the E just stands for exceeding expectations, because the reality is most of these appointments don't happen on the first call. No matter how good I am, no matter how good we are on the phones, the reality is probably 80% or 90% will happen on the second, third, fourth, fifth call. So we have to have a good process to follow up and stay in touch with them and exceed expectations.
We are not going to have enough time on this podcast. I've got so many burning questions in my brain.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about your process. I'm also going to dig into the mindset piece after that, and so many other things. And then I'm going to get to a rapid fire round. So we got about, call it 20, 25 minutes left to cover some topics. Anybody that's here, make sure you're jumping in the chat and asking any questions. Kendrick Richardson is here. Great information. Kendrick is here on a weekly basis. My boy, Nicola Cervolo, one of the top commercial leasing experts in Montreal. He is a genius when it comes to managing large commercial sites. He's here as well too. And I'm sure you're echoing a lot of things that he sees in conversations, because I was talking to Nicola a couple of weeks ago on the phone about how he manages expectations in a market that's shifting, and really, with tenants that want to be open tomorrow and guiding them along that sales journey. But let's step back. You mentioned a key piece, a system for follow-up. So you have that initial conversation. It usually takes like 6 calls to get the appointment, 9 calls in certain situations. What's a simple, effective system that somebody could implement for follow-up?
Yeah, here's what I would say. It's going to sound a little trite, but whatever system you have, use it. I'm not going to say there's a best system. I'm going to say have a system and use it. When I first got started, we used index cards. 19 years ago, we cut out the for sale by owner ads and had and we taped them to the top left corner of the 4x6 index cards. And we had a little box with tabs for the towns. Yeah, that was the system. And every weekend, every day of the week, I went through it, and that was my system. And then eventually we got Top Producer, right? Everybody's familiar with Top Producer.
I used Top Producer for quite some time.
Yeah, right. I think everybody used Top Producer at some point in real estate. And now we use KV Core, which is part of our system that's built in. But we also use Vulcan 7. Yeah. So Vulcan 7 is my preferred system, and that's with FSBOs and expireds and circle prospecting and things like that. But the reality is the system is just having a conversation with somebody and then scheduling what's next. That's it. There has to be something in the schedule. So there's always one thing that happens on automation, and that's emails. And the reason I say that is because the only thing me, what does a seller care about, Justin?
Seller cares about how much money they're making.
Well, that and what else though? Before they even decide to list their house, what do they care about?
I'm not sure. The communication piece?
They care about the value of their house.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
That's the most important. Yeah. So if you're sending emails, sellers really don't care about any other emails for the most part, except for here's what my home is worth. Yeah. So everybody should, as soon as you have a conversation with somebody, get somebody on that type of an email campaign.
Just send them an update on home values in there.
And you ask permission. So I'm going to say, Justin, I have a system. I can send you an accurate, like a value of your neighborhood. You can get it weekly, every other week, or once a month. What would you prefer?
Yeah. So you're giving them the ability to decide. I want to know once a month, or hey, weekly. If a place sells, I want to know that it's sold, right?
Absolutely. So I send them. So they're getting that email, and then depending on the conversation, I always send a text right away, a text message. Thank you for your time. Here's my contact information. And what I tell people, what I tell people with the video, because if you're good with video, send a text video. Yeah. Some people, Justin, they know they're not great with video.
They shouldn't be sending video.
Don't send it. Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm not going to say send a text video if you suck with video. Yeah. But if you're good with video, send a text video. Otherwise, just send a text. Thank you for your time. Here's my contact information. If I can help, reach out to me, and then follow up. That's it. So if you told me, hey, you know what? I just put my house on the market. I'm not doing anything with a realtor for 3 weeks. That's my time frame. Great. I'm going to give you 5 or 6 days. I'm going to check back with you.
Sure.
Okay. That's it. Simple phone call. I'm going to get you on the drip. I'm going to ask if I can keep you updated on what's happening in your neighborhood, get you on that drip, and then I'm going to check back with you. If you say 3 weeks, I'm going to cut that time in 2/3.
It's interesting that you say that's all. I do want to point that out. Everybody kind of thinks the same way. If somebody says a year, I check it in 6 months, and that's typically because life changes, right? So, why else do you do that? Like, why do you cut the time short? I'm just curious.
Because situations change. Mm-hmm. Because people may say they're going to wait 3 weeks, but then they decide, you know what, this isn't working. We know we'll use for sale by owners as an example because that's what you brought up, but it's a fact. For sale by owners are going to go 30 to 45 days before they hire a realtor. The average.
Yeah.
Okay. We do better than that. We do 7 to 10 days, but the average is 30 to 45 days. So I know no matter what, that's the average. So if I can stay in touch with them throughout that whole process and go back to the E and the ACE, exceed expectations, I'm checking in with them. I'm providing information. I'm telling them things about the market that they don't know. Hey, we just had another property on 123 Main Street go under contract last week. We're aware. Oh no, tell me about that. I'm getting into a relationship with this person. Justin, we listed a house right before I left for vacation. And as the guy, this isn't expired, as he's signing the paperwork, my agent Matt was with me. He's saying, I can't believe I'm signing with you. This other agent's going to be so upset with me. Yeah. As he's signing the paperwork, Justin. Why? Because we built so much trust with this guy. That was about 6 months of talking to him on probably a monthly basis.
What's a great example too of you showing your communication piece to your client? Like if I had a salty experience with my previous realtor, probably comes down to something very basic as much as like they just never contacted me or communicated with me. And if you're communicating with me that much before you even have my contract, I can have a certain expectation that you're going to be as good when you actually have my listing, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think that would be in their mind.
I think our boy Ramon Ray just popped in. Two amazing humans. We appreciate you, Ramon. That's awesome.
Ramon's a beast. I love that.
Yeah, he really is. All right, let's dive into that for a second. We'll talk about mindset in a minute because I think you have one of the most fascinating mindsets out there. But let's talk about how, when you hit a wall in sales, right? You feel tired, you're dejected, you're losing appointments. We've all been there in sales. I don't care if you're an agent, you're, open a business, you're a restaurateur, you're going to feel like, man, I can't get there by myself sometimes. For myself, a big piece of that is the faith, but it's also the community of people that I have around me, like yourself and Ramon and Nicola and Kendrick, and like people that inspire me to do better. So I guess, how has community helped you grow to be a better salesperson? And then we'll talk about mindset.
Well, I think, I look up to some of you guys, and, like Ramon, he was telling me, he just picked up $1 million. I don't know if he got it or he's working on $1 million contract. Sure. So I hear stuff like that. And, part of the community, we hang out with Breakfast with Champions. You've got Glenn Lundy in there and just always doing big things, and Scott Simons and what's his name? The guy from New York, can't even think of his name.
Oh, right, Brian Benstock.
Yeah, Benstock and Barbara, and it's just really, really cool to be part of that and listen to what those people are up to, and it just inspires me to be bigger and do better, which is why I wrote a check. I wrote a pretty large check to become a Grant Cardone licensee, and then recently I took it to the next level, and I went out and I auditioned to be a coach for those guys. So I was selected as one of the first Cardone coaches, but I had to go through a process to do that. So just want to put myself around people that are doing bigger things than me. And I think that ultimately kind of helps keep me motivated and keep me moving forward, because otherwise I can get complacent, man, because based on where I come from, I got a really good life, so I look at my life, but then I have to look at what some of these other people are doing. I'm like, well, hold on. How come I'm flying here on JetBlue and they got private jets? So well, if they can have private jets, why should I not have private jets? Right? I'm not saying you need private jets, but it's just like, it helps me think bigger. That's all.
Well, there's a difference. So this will translate into the mindset piece in a minute. There's a difference between people that get around people like Barbara Majeski, Brian Benstock, Glenn Lundy, Ramon Ray. I go on and on.
Yeah.
The Grant Cardones and anybody else. Like, one thing I love about Ramon, actually, he brought on Seth Godin, who's a personal marketing hero of mine. I got to ask him a question. You either get jealous and that kind of scarcity mindset of like, well, they have that, I should have that because, they just had a better circumstance, or be inspired and be like, man, if they did it, I can do it. There's nothing stopping me. And there's the mindset piece of you showing up on the Peloton, doing the triathlons, investing in yourself. How has the mindset piece formed over the years? Because you said you came from a tough background. How did you change your mindset over the years to get to where you are today, where you can be so inspired about other people's success?
Just a lot of hard work, Justin. I mean, here's the reality. I still have to remind myself to be grateful for when I see other people doing good things and big things. And when I see Ramon posting something about, a $1 million contract, or I see Glenn, I have to be grateful for them. And I'll be honest, sometimes I have to remind myself to do that because I wasn't conditioned to do that. I was conditioned to protect myself and unfortunately come from a lot of scarcity. So it's something that's evolved over years. And now, when I see something like that, my first thought is, wow, that's awesome. Congratulations. Good for them. But it wasn't like that for a long time, man. It was, well, how, if they have that, somehow they're taking something from me.
100%.
Like I'm missing something because they're getting all this. And and that'll hold you back. That's what holds people back. When I have to realize there's an abundance out there. The better the people around me are doing, the better I get to do. That's the way I look at it now. I want everybody to do great. Like I've helped thousands of real estate agents through my career. I was a trainer for Keller for years. I've worked with hundreds of, even after leaving Keller, I've coached hundreds of agents and taken listings and all kinds of things. The better they do, the better I do. That's it.
It's such a small mindset shift, though, that it could go one way or the other. I see somebody else having incredible success with their podcast. I put a lot of effort into the content that I do. I could sit there and be like, well, why am I not having the same success that they're having? Well, no. I should step back and be like, well, what are they doing differently than me? And what can I restructure? And I actually reached out to a really good friend of mine that's launched an incredible podcast. And we've talked about the Prime People podcast and how to kind of reframe and relaunch it even at a higher level, knowing what I know now. I've been doing this since 2013. I have a really good idea of how to reformat and even reach a broader audience, right? But it is such a small line where the same agent that walks into a brokerage and says, I should be my listing, instead of just getting on the phones and knocking doors and going out and getting business, they just sit there and they say, poor me, poor me, poor me. And they never get anywhere. And they're in the same place in their career 3 years later, but it's everybody's fault but their own, right?
Yeah, 100%. Well, you brought up Seth Godin, and I don't know if Ramon's still here. I can't see if he's here or not.
Ramon, if you're here, jump in the chat or hit the StreamYard link that I sent you.
When he brought Seth into Breakfast with Champions, I was there. I don't know if you remember what happened.
You were there, I think, right before me.
I have a vision board right here. I'm pointing to it. I know you can't see it, but I'm pointing. Seth Godin is still at the top left corner.
That's right. You asked him to be on your podcast.
And you know what he said to me?
No.
He said, he goes, yeah, I'm just not a big fan of the Hail Mary.
Yeah.
And I was just like, there's like 600 people in that room.
I know. I was there. I was on my back patio listening to the podcast.
Yeah. And I was just like, okay. But you know what? Here's the thing. I was still smiling, dude. You know why? Because I asked.
Sure.
How much of a hump would I have been if I get in a room with somebody that's been on my vision board for years and I don't even ask? Did I get the response I wanted? No. But I asked and I'm fine. You know what? I had Gary Vee on my podcast. It took me 2 years to get Gary Vee on my podcast. I believe it. So I'm grateful that I asked. Regardless of the outcome, if I didn't ask, then I would have got down on myself, Justin, because then I left stuff on the table. I didn't go for it. Yeah. And I think it's the same thing you're saying with the agent in the office. Don't worry about what the other agent's doing. Go out there and get your own listings, right? This is what we're dealing with right now. In the time we are, April 27th, right? April 28th. Today is 28th.
Yeah.
2022. Inventory's low. Interest rates are going up. That's it. Gas prices are high. There's a lot of stuff going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a challenging time, but there's people that need to sell houses and there's no inventory. There's sellers that have to sell. So don't sit back and say, oh my God, these times are so tough. And we just had our oil filled up. I've never seen an oil bill that high in my life.
It's bananas. Yeah. I mean, inflation is a real thing right now.
I was like, holy cow. My wife and I were like, is this real? But listen, people still have to sell. Life still goes on.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. All we can do is focus on what we control. What I can control is I can pick up the phone. I can go into my database. I can call some people I haven't talked to in a while. I can call some FSBOs if I want. I can call some expires. I can literally go into my cell phone and call every person I know and check in on them and see how they're doing and see who they know who needs real estate help. That's how I got started in real estate, by the way. Calling people in my cell phone.
Let's do a quick recap. So having a plan, right? And doing your research before you call people. I think one super effective way of closing more sales in less time. That's what this episode's about. 2, having a system that you follow. 3, we kind of touched on it, but we didn't really bring it to the forefront. Practice. Make sure that you're spending time with people 100%. That are at your level or above your level. 4, community. 5, mindset. I definitely think all of those pieces have made you the man you are today. And the last piece about the mindset, that conversation with Seth Godin, I also think I want to point out you're not defined by the world's view of who you are. You know who you are because you've put in the work to figure it out. And when Seth Godin says no, it just means not right now. And the next time you meet him and Ramon Ray is running an event and he happens to be there, you can bring that up tongue in cheek. And it may get his attention that you were the guy that he said no to in front of 600 people, which may get the yes for the podcast, right? So I do want to showcase to that. But the last question I'm going to ask you before we get into rapid fire, the character that you have, you probably look in the mirror every day and are willing to look at your flaws and work towards the person you want to be, right? Like I know you on a personal level. I feel like you're my brother in that aspect that like, how do you deal with maybe the things that you want to change that are who you are today, but don't always have to be that way? Because you've really pushed through some barriers in that regard.
So I'm my worst critic. Okay. I'm way harder on myself than anybody else could be. If I would never let people talk to me probably the way I talk to myself. I'm being honest right now. It's a tough question. I just focus on gratitude, man. I really want to focus on the good things in life. I'm a good dad. I'm a good husband. I'm in a good shape, physically in great shape. Financially we're in pretty good shape. We can't complain, do okay. I got to focus on that. I can't focus on, well, how come Brian Benstock has a jet and I don't? Or how come Grant's drives a Rolls Royce truck and I, you know what I mean?
For sure.
And so I just have to be grateful for what I have. I think that's my solution. And at the same time, I have huge ambition and I want more, but I can't forget to be grateful, man. I think gratitude is the key. That would be my answer. It's gratitude. I just have to always, and I write my goals every morning, every night, I write my goals. And that keeps me focused on my goals. They're not all, they haven't all materialized yet or manifest. I don't know if manifest is even the word, but they haven't come to fruition yet, but I write them every morning, every night, and every morning, every night keeps me focused.
I love that. And I mean, you shared with me this week about how you just got back from Hawaii, that time with your family, the gratitude for very simple things that, it's not necessarily the trappings of wealth that make a man wealthy. It's the respect and the love and the loyalty of the people around him. I think you're a great example of that. Let's get into the rapid fire question. Then I want to honor your time and get you out of here. Shout out to Jaime Resendez, killing it on YouTube. Nice to see you, Jaime, and everybody else. Thank you for being here. So I got 3 questions for you. And then the biggest question of all, the first question would be, what's the greatest lesson you've learned up until now?
Ooh, that's a good question. You should have sent this to me. Did you send this to me ahead of time?
I don't never send my questions. They're on the spot.
The biggest lesson. Let me think. There's so many, man. There's so many. I think the biggest lesson is time, man. Just, I think time, life's going by a lot faster than we think. I think being in Hawaii, whenever we see it when we travel, when you're on vacation, it's like you get off the plane and then all of a sudden I was like 10 days. It's like, okay, we're getting on the plane now. Like, where did the last 10 days go? And I think that's life. And I feel like for me, I'm going to go back to the gratitude and I have such a broken childhood that's a lesson too. My childhood didn't define me, but I think just being grateful, being present, enjoying my daughters and my children, and now I've got grandchildren. Just being that father I never had, and I think the lesson is just enjoy life. I mean, have big goals, have ambition, but at the same time, we got to figure out how to enjoy life and be present. And I feel like there's too many people that have missed out on their whole life. And I don't want to be that person.
Clock is ticking, people. Number 2, what are you learning right now? You're 80% that you're great at. Is it NFTs, Web 3.0? Like, what 20% of your brain is like going in a place that maybe is new grounds for you?
I love, I'm a fan of crypto, technology, Web3, blockchain, all that technology. I'm bullish. I'm daily studying it. I listen to Bankless podcast, Crypto 101. I watch YouTube videos. I'm really, really interested big time. I want to figure out, how do I become a trainer on like in the metaverse, right? Those are the types of things that's on my mind. Like, I want to bring what I do into the metaverse.
You're doing it just by being in proximity to that world. You're going to figure it out because you got the skill set in real life. And it's just, how does that translate? How has failure shaped your life?
Dude, failure is my life, man. It's my whole life. I mean, everything I've learned was from failing forward. I just went out and I had an audition this is the most recent thing. I auditioned to be a coach for Cardone, and there were 60 people in the room, and they selected 12. And, they said, well, first person who wants to come up and be first. I raised my hand first, came up and did live coaching in front of the room. And the only reason I could do that is because I failed so many times. I auditioned 5 times before I became a Keller Williams University instructor and got shot down and got in front of that room and was so nervous, but I kept coming back. Right. Gary V getting on my podcast. The time I waited, he was supposed to get on. I waited 1 hour and 15 minutes. He never got on the call. Well, me on hold waiting. Finally, I was so bummed I hung up. I was like, you know what? I'm going to give up. But I didn't. I still stayed at it. I mean, so much. Yeah. Like that's my life, Justin. I mean, I fell forward, bro. I think that's it. I think you got to learn from your mistakes and grow from mistakes and just keep moving forward.
Good luck getting Dave off the Peloton. And
I don't have a Peloton, by the way. You are.
Sorry, I keep saying Peloton. The bike.
Everybody says that. Yeah, but it's
we had a Facebook user pop in. They recommended The Happiness Advantage by Sean Anker. I'll check that book out. Always love a good book recommendation. The most important question before I let you go, given you poured into our audience, my platform is yours. Is there somewhere you'd like to point them to? How can they connect them with you? Just want to give you my platform, brother.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I think, make sure you continue following Justin, man. This is a good dude. He's a genuine dude. He's up to big things. And continue that. And I love what you're doing with YouTube, by the way. And I'm following your model on YouTube. I went out and I got StreamYard, and I'm doing more on YouTube. So I appreciate you for that. For me, listen, I help real estate agents. I mean, right now I work primarily with real estate agents. Okay. We help them with lead generation. So we help connect with people, handle objections, and follow up and close sales. That's it. So if I've got a membership, We've got a few different memberships. We got a short money, $47 a month membership. I feel like every realtor in the planet should be in that membership. We've got about 50 now and growing. And then I have coaching for people that want to invest a little bit more and get time one-on-one with me. The link's right here, DavidHill.link. All you need to do is go there and you can, either connect with me for a 15-minute call or just jump into our membership.
Awesome. Well, there's a million ways to connect with David. Go into the link in the show description. Make sure you connect with him on Instagram, on Clubhouse, many other places as well. And I'm sure this will be the first of many in the future, brother. Keep hammering, and I will see you at the top.
Appreciate you, bro. Thank you.
All right. See you, brother. Take care.